we had a guy come to us who had that experience. He actually went to 2 project home builders. He actually went through the process twice, and his block was a smaller block. It was able to detach, so there was an existing house on the front, and he was able to put a single dwelling on the back. It had to be a single story. So the project home builder said, well, here's our standard 3-bedroom single garage home. We're just going to stick that along the back boundary. We'll plonk it on there. That's $6,000. Thank you for your time. He's come to me and gone.
So what did he pay $6,000 for?
He paid for the design. He paid for the designer for them to do a construction budget on what it would cost. So not only did they give him design that wasn't compliant, they also gave him a budget that wasn't realistic.
And then, so this was a design that they already had?
Yeah, so it's just something that they had in one of their standard models that they figured it's wide enough, it'll fit on there, we'll just plonk it on. I mean, I'll grant that they had the right distance off the rear boundary. They at least got that part right. But they had no thought into the access, how you're going to get the cars in. So this certain council, you need to make sure that when the cars leave the site, that they leave in a forward motion. So there was no turning areas. You need 2 parking spaces for each house. There was no consideration for the existing house. They just ignored that altogether. They basically took out the private open space for the existing house. They didn't consider any of that as well. So there's a lot of things that they didn't tick off. And basically this guy went to the council with that concept plan that this project home builder did for him. And the council just told him, no, it'll never happen that way. So
he paid $6,000 for a copy and paste plan that would never have gotten approved through council.
No, never.
And he did this twice, did he?
Yeah. Yeah, he'd been through the exercise twice.
So who was the second, who was the, what
happened? It was a project home builder. Both of them were project home builders that he kind of went to. I think he went to them around the same time or within very close proximity of each other. And both of them had the same kind of concept mock-up, and just a cut and paste kind of stick on there. And again, the price that they gave him, which I tried to explain to him, was based on that cookie cutter pick up and plonk on the site. They didn't allow any of the site works, the extra driveway works, any of the landscape works. This council requires specific additional landscaping to be done. There was a lot of stormwater upgrades that needed to be done on this site, and what they call a retention basin had to be constructed. So there's a lot of stuff that they didn't factor into that price. So when I took it over, we basically had to redesign the whole thing to function, and then break the news to him that his $150,000 quote that he got was realistically $250,000.
So what would have happened if he'd signed a contract with them? He would have just been surprised with, whoopsies, it's another $100,000.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Well, I mean, considering that the design would get by, which it wouldn't, but let's assume that they did the design the right way.
Yep.
Yes, he would have signed a contract, paid his 10% deposit, and then once it got council approved, or once it was in council, and council came back and said, well, you need your retention basins designed, and you need your driveways upgraded, and you need this, this, and this. They would have just basically gone back to him and said, well, you know, ours was based on this standard concept model that you signed and approved. Now council have asked for this, this, and this, so these additional costs are going to cost an extra $100,000. Sign here and accept that, and he would have just been stuck with it, which he still would have paid that, ultimately doing it the right way, but he would have planned for that. So he would have gone to his bank and said, I need $250,000. Whereas now he's gone to his bank and said, I need $150,000, and all of a sudden run back and gone, oh, hang on, I need another $100,000, which means the bank starts to panic.
Yep.
Because you're already messing up. We haven't even started. So what's to come? And it doesn't make, and he might only be restricted to $150,000. He might not be able to get the extra $100,000. So he's lost the $6,500 for the design. He's lost another, and then he's lost 10% of the construction, another $15,000-$20,000. So he's out of pocket, $30,000, and he's still got nothing for it.
So really, if people come to you right from the start, they could save themselves. Like in his case, if he'd come to you, he would have saved himself $30,000, plus known what he needed for the whole project so that
That's right.
cash flow wise he can manage that.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Basically,
what did you end up doing for him? Like how did he find you, and what did you end up doing for him?
well, he was referred by his nephew that I knew. So he came to us via referral, and as soon as I looked at the plan, I knew it was going to work, and I told him straight away on the spot, and I was able to tell him why on the spot as well, because we've done a lot of work in that council area. So I knew straight away that parking, all those issues weren't going to happen.
So you knew just from looking at the plan he was never going to get that approved.
I knew, just because I've done a lot of work in that area, and just by looking at that plan straight away, I knew it was never going to work. He kind of already knew because he already went to council and kind of showed council, said, "Oh, this is what I'm planning on doing," and the guy at council told him. So by me telling him the exact same thing, I guess it reinforced both aspects, that council were telling him the right thing and I'm telling him the right thing, and unfortunately it kind of then sunk in that he got kind of ripped off in a sense by, you know, a project builder that's been in the area as well for quite a long time, that should have known better too.
Yeah. So was he hoping just to come to you and you'd be able to fix a few errors here and there?
Yeah, he was hoping that I'd be able to just kind of move a little bit here and there, and you know, everything would be fine, and everything would still cost the same. And I basically said, look, we can't. We're going to have to do a full redesign, and your budget's not going to be the 150,000.
But you ended up coming up with something better for him, didn't you?
Well, we came up with something,
a better return as well.
Well, we came up with something that complied. Number one, so we got him a design that council ultimately approved. It took a fair bit of negotiation with council. We had to really push it with them because we were very tight, and I really pushed the boundaries on a lot of things, which we do a lot, which we know that we can get away with. I mean, a lot of people won't put up that fight with council. I mean, I battled with council for 6 months, back and forward, and would not take no for an answer, and basically we got it approved. Yes. So he ended up with a DA approved site, which unfortunately he wasn't able to build because of his budget. So he was restricted to the 150,000. The bank wouldn't lend him anymore.
Yep.
But in saying that, he now made a return by selling a DA approved site. So he still made money because he was able to sell it to a developer with a DA approval. So he didn't make the end development, but I was able to set up exit strategies for him in exit stages and say, okay, let's get your DA, and that's exit stage one. You can either find the funding to build it yourself, or you can sell it DA approved and still make, you know, $20,000-$30,000 just by doing that.
So getting the DA approval is also something else you can help people with if they're stuck with a dud, that then they don't have the funds to do something. So really, yeah. So even if people have made a mistake and bought the wrong block, you're able to help them find a way and fight for them so that they can at least sell that block with the approval on it, so that someone else can then go and develop that block. Yeah,
and a lot of people choose to do that too. So a lot of people know they can't afford to spend $300,000-$400,000 on a development, so they'll spend $20,000-$30,000 on getting the development approvals, getting the DAs and getting your plans done and all those approvals, and they can still sell it and make $20,000-$30,000. You know,
so if someone
might make $200,000, but they'll still make $20,000 on a quick return.
Okay, so if someone has got themselves in a spot of bother, how much extra value does it add to a block of land having that approval in place?
Well, it adds a lot of value, because the DA is the hard part, because you've got to deal with the council. So you've got to get the designs right, and you've got to deal with council. And if it's a tricky site, you've got a fair bit of back and forth and arguing with council and kind of pushing your point. So if you can save somebody that headache, they're willing to pay more for the land because you've done all the hard work. All they got to do is turn up and start building.
Yep.
It's a process that and a headache you're taking away from somebody.
And how much extra value does it add to a block of land? I mean, I suppose how long's a piece of string, but yeah. How in his situation, how much extra value did it add to his block of land? So he's wasted $30,000, right? Yeah. he's done all of that, then how much extra was he able to sell the block of land for in comparison from what he would have been able to sell before he had the approval, then after you did all that work for him, including your costs?
Yeah, unfortunately, because he already wasted 30,000, his return wasn't as much as what it could have been.
Yeah.
But his real investment should have been around the 10 to 15,000, because it wasn't a complex and big development to design and do. So the design and DA costs weren't that great. But he's already lost 30,000. He still walked away 20 ahead. So really, he could have made 40,000.
Yeah.
40 to 50,000 just by doing that, you know. So you take off that value. So you still walked away with around the $20,000 mark, because again, the block was able to be strata subdivided. So then you got two properties on there worth, you know, 500, 600,000 each. And if your only building cost is going to be the 250 to 300,000, you sell one, you've covered your development, plus you covered both. So you're already going to be ahead. So that return ultimately for an investor was just too good to pass up.
Yep. So it was easier for him to sell the block as well and recoup his money.
It was, yeah. So he got his money back and he made a little bit extra. Like I said, not as much as what he could have if he got it done right the first time.
Yep.
But he was able to at least walk away with a bit of cash in his pocket.
Do you see people going to project builders often? Because, I mean, clearly he mustn't be the only person that this happens to. Would you say that most people will go to a project builder not knowing that they can come across, get themselves into this sort of strife?
Yeah, because a lot of the project builders work off stock standard plans. So if their plan doesn't fit on your site, then you're moving to a custom design and they won't touch it. So if they can't make their standard one fit, they won't play around with it, because that's what they're used to building. That's what all their tradesmen are used to building. That's all they do. So if it has to go to a custom, which majority of dual occupancies do, there's no point going to a project home builder, because they won't have anything specific for your site.
Yet there are project builders who will do it knowing that really it may not get approved.
Look, not all of them. Look, not all of them. And sometimes they just do it just through pure lack of education. The people that are working on it might not have enough experience in that area, and they just think it is as simple as picking up a standard house and sticking it up the back, and everyone's just going to love it. And it doesn't always work that way. So it's just finding people who do it as part of their scope, who actually integrate as part of their business. If you're going to a project home builder that you see that all they do is estates, then they're probably not the right person to go to, because they've got their stock standard 20, 30 designs. That's where you pick from. So they're probably not the best person to see in regards to doing a custom design.